Hello, my name is Marta and this is Kelly. We're here from St Gabriel's College and London Citizens.
Today we're going to be interviewing Leona from the South London Liberal Synagogue about Judaism and the housing crisis in London.
So the 5 books of Moses, the Tanakh in the Jewish faith, says very little about the relationship with tenants and landlords, because I guess that was written as speaking to an agrarian society where most people just had their land. But then later rabbis in the Talmud discussed this, and I think it's a nuanced position. It talks about the balance of obligations between the tenant and landlord, and the landlord has some rights. The landlord can, under some circumstances, say, gonna need that house back, sorry. For example, if their son is getting married and they want to give the house to their son. But the landlord can't just chuck out a tenant willy-nilly. There are restrictions on the landlord. So, for example, the landlord has to give more notice in winter if they want to evict a tenant. And it's also clear that the Tanakh recognises that there are limits to raising the rent, and that's something that I really relate to. It's not just a matter of squeezing a tenant for all of the rent that you can get. It's not about just saying what's the maximum rent that you can get under market conditions. You recognise that your tenant is a human being created in the image of God, and you have obligations towards them as well.
Hello, we're from St Gabriel's College and we're also members from London Citizens.
Today we're here outside St Paul's, Brixton to interview Tiff about the housing issue.
It's an important issue for us because we have people who are, because in our diversity we have people who are tenants and people who are landlords, and in fact we as a church are a landlord. We own 3 flats which we rent out, and it quite regularly comes up in our PCC meetings how we deal with the flats, how we are good landlords, good hosts, because the PCC is very concerned that we're not making the most money from our flats, but that we have a place that's affordable housing for people to be able to live in our community. But at the same time, we realise that it takes money to do our work here in the community, so we need the flats to bring us in some money. So that's one end of it, is the kind of difficulty of being a tenant and what is a landlord, and what is a Christian landlord. And then at the other end, we've got people who live in houses who have had real struggles with their housing. So we have a lady who's a real character in our church, real backbone of our church, kind of grandmother to everybody. She's 71 years old, and for the last few years she's been living in a house that's so damp it's given her major problems with her breathing and her chest, and her housing association were not taking it very seriously, and eventually we were able to walk with her and put some kind of friendly pressure on them, and they've moved her, but they moved her to a place where there's lots of repairs needed, and they promised that they'd do the repairs and they weren't done. So what she's having is, not only are we finding that housing needs to be appropriate and safe, but also it needs to be a place where people have dignity. They look forward to going home, and they look forward to having guests in their home. And so I think that's why housing is important for us, because we are a local community church and we are a welcoming church, so we want people to be welcoming in their homes as well. If they're ashamed of their homes, they won't be able to do that. Well, our faith has a lot to say about the issue of housing, but there's one particular passage that I've been thinking about in preparation for this interview, which is Luke chapter 19 verses 1 to 10, and it's the story of Jesus meeting Zacchaeus. And in that story, Jesus doesn't just, it's a famous story where Zacchaeus climbs a sycamore tree, but he doesn't just have a conversation with Zacchaeus up the sycamore tree. He actually says to Zacchaeus, I want to come and have a sleepover in your house. I want to come and stay at your house for a prolonged period of time. And so Zacchaeus has the honour of hosting Jesus in his own home. And that seems to be a really important part of Zacchaeus' own journey, so that Jesus actually says, today salvation has come to this house. There's something about Zacchaeus being in his home and receiving Jesus in his home that is part of Zacchaeus' journey from being an outsider to being saved. So I think what this passage says to me about housing is that it's a place where we actually meet with God. It's a place that is so central to who we are that we welcome God himself into our homes. Sometimes we read in scripture that sometimes we welcome angels when we welcome strangers, and in other words, our homes are our kind of key place of hospitality, of welcome. So it's really important that our houses are places of dignity and safety and comfort.